My name is William George Buchanan, always called George, or Geordie when I was young. Let me tell you the story of my life. I was born on my Uncle Bob's farm near Neepawa, Manitoba, in 1906. My father, Bill, was a blacksmith and owned his own business in the village of Riding Mountain. My mother was Elizabeth Jane Watson, usually called Lizzie. My parents were both born in Ontario. When I was young, my parents moved to Leslieville, Alberta, where I received much of my education. My family later moved to the city of Tacoma, Washington. My friends and I spent much of our spare time swimming in the bay. I became a very strong swimmer. My friends all tanned, but not me. So if you can't tan, you may have inherited it from me. Times were tough. I quit school after grade 6 to help support the family by cleaning streetcars. I also worked in a box factory, making wooden boxes and pallets. When I was 17, Mom became sick and died. Pa was left with 4 children, the youngest being 8 years old. Pa was under pressure to give her up for adoption. Instead he moved back to Canada, setting up a blacksmith shop in Millet, Alberta, and later west of Millet where my Uncle Dick Watson had a farm. Many years later, my cousin Gloria Burns Prale said, "I remember the Buchanans visiting at Dick's place, particularly Geordie, who told us ghost stories around a campfire and scared us to death. He was good." I worked at various hard physical jobs, like building wooden bridges out of large timbers for the railroad. This is where I developed a hernia that occasionally caused dizziness. I was not a large man, but fortunately I was very strong. While working in the Breton area, I met a wonderful young lady named Dorothy Maying. She was like a ray of sunshine in my life. She agreed to marry me, and on February 22, 1941, we were married in Winfield, Alberta. My Uncle Dick Watson gave $500 each to me and my brother Jack to purchase farms, worth about 2 years' wages. Uncle Dick had no children of his own, so he helped to take care of us. I bought the McNeil farm and became a farmer, farming without power equipment, just the muscle power of a team of good horses and myself. In the winter I worked as a logger, cutting down trees with a bow saw, trimming off the branches with an axe, and skidding the trees with the help of my favorite horse, a black Morgan Cross named Pet. Later I worked as a pipe fitter in the Camrose oil field for 3 years, for Canadian Construction. When I moved my family to Edgewater, BC in 1954, I worked in the planing mill for about 10 years, and then for Kootenay National Park. In 1969 we agreed to move back to Breton to look after my brother Jack. I have tried to be a hard worker and an honest man, and to teach my children to be the same. I have greatly enjoyed my marriage and my family life. When the children were little, I would give them horsey rides, on the instep of my foot, while singing nonsense songs to them. I would tell them stories using made-up characters, like the side-hill gouger who always walked around the mountain in the same direction so one leg was longer than the other. And a bird that always flew backwards to keep the dust out of its eyes. I loved the game of checkers, and when we lived on the McNeil place, I made a checkerboard for the family from a sheet of cardboard and I sawed wooden discs from a broken handle to make the game pieces. I regretted my lack of education. I felt that I had the mind of a good lawyer, but I was trapped by a poor education. I have been an avid reader. In some areas of knowledge I may have achieved the equivalent of a university degree. My special interests were political science, economics, and the environment. I have had a deep love and appreciation for nature. Nature provides the trees and the farmland and wild game I have depended on to feed my family. I have tried to teach my family to treat nature with respect. I recognize God as the creator of nature, but attended church only on special occasions. I read the Bible and have a good basic knowledge of it. I deeply disbelieve in war. But World War II was a different kind of war. I volunteered for the Canadian Army but was rejected because my hernia caused occasional dizzy spells. Dorothy and I have formed lasting friendships and had a strong sense of community. I was president of the Edgewater Senior Citizens Club prior to our move back to Alberta. I am 5 feet 9 inches tall, with dark wavy hair, and never went bald. I have a black wolf's head tattooed on my left forearm. I have tried to keep an open mind. After all, the official news is just one side of the story. Like most farmers, I have had to know how to build and repair things. My brother and I built Jack's house in 1943. We had half-completed an interesting house for my family on the McNeil farm, with walls made of 6-inch timbers on end. When Jack and Tina moved away, this project was abandoned and we moved into the finished house on their farm. In about 1951, I bought a town lot in Breton and built a house as a winter residence. In Edgewater in 1957 I also built a house. This time my oldest children were able to help, along with my amazing wife. I did the carpentry, plumbing and electrical wiring myself. I hope you enjoyed my story. I send my best wishes.